packaged at their house, and we just, as we see nutrition slide, we saw diseases go up. I also did some research on the vitamins that I would teach these nurses to recommend. And the industry very quickly became $1 billion industry, and then even quicker was going into the $1 trillion industry. So the growth of vitamin sales was just incredible, but the disease rates were still climbing. So we were spending more money per household on synthetic vitamins, multivitamin formulas, synthetic vitamins, isolates, just calcium and that sort of thing, and yet our disease rates were still climbing. So that's when I realized, maybe, and listen, I took 4 years of nutrition education to recommend vitamins. I was really, really good at it. But I just realized at that point that maybe it's not the solution we've been led to believe it is. So I went back and looked at what were we doing properly before the health crisis began, and there was 2 things that stood out statistically. One, when we saw a statistical drop in family gardens, we started to see an impact on the disease rates, and that's because for those of you who had a garden growing up, what'd you do in the fall? You ate it. You ate lots of it, right? We know families that grow their own fruits and vegetables have a higher consumption of fruits and vegetables. The second thing we noticed, I'm a working mom, but statistically was when mom entered the workforce. Because then we became a society of convenience. Okay, and I know what it's like to get home at 5 o'clock at night, the kids are hangry, hungry, and angry at the same time, and you want to provide something that's quick, that's going to, and we're tired too as moms, but the society kind of accommodated us and provided everything packaged, right? What doesn't come, canned, boxed, or frozen now. And most families that I work with, that's what their meals consist of. And it's not to shame, because I was doing the same thing. I remember studying for my first nutrition exam, eating a poutine. Okay. I knew better, but it was so good. So that was at that point that I just changed my belief system and I stopped recommending vitamins altogether. So if you came to me as a client, I would give you a meal plan to follow, and you would have really great results because you were putting the nutrition that nature designed for your body into your body. And my theory became that the solution to our health crisis will be found in whole foods and getting back into the home gardening. And I'll share a little bit about home gardening with you guys today as well. So these are what I believe is required in order to be healthy. We have to stabilize blood sugar. We'll look at why that's important. There's a lot of restrictive weight loss programs out there. I don't believe in them at all. In 11 or 12 years now, I've never done one. High nutrient intake. Our body requires about 90 different nutrients on a daily basis. That's before stress, fatigue, illness, children, husbands, all of that kind of stuff. So, if we're not meeting that baseline of 90, chances are we're deficient in something, and we'll talk about how that impacts our health. We're going to talk about why having a daily plan in place works for us, what foods we should be eating, why we want to be choosing a vegan shake over an animal-based, like a whey-based shake, because a lot of us are doing smoothies, but we're not choosing the right mixes for our smoothie mix. And of course, how exercise and accountability are going to help us. So, blood sugars. This is probably the most important thing for someone's health and energy levels. Okay, blood sugars are just absolutely, it's the first thing I teach every client, no matter who they are. So there's 2 things we don't want to see happen with our blood sugar levels. One is we don't want to hit blood sugar highs, which is when we've eaten something sugary. So if I had a glass of orange juice, it's just sugar and water. If I drink that, there's nothing to slow the release of that sugar into my bloodstream, right? My blood sugars are going to go sky high. My body's then going to produce a hormone called insulin. Insulin's going to grab onto that blood sugar and store it in my body in the form of saturated fat. Who knows how long insulin lasts, the insulin reaction? Anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, it puts my body into storage mode. It also suppresses my immune system. So, when we have something that's sugary, we're basically just putting our body into storage mode, okay? Results from eating high glycemic foods, your sugars, your sodas, your chips, most breakfast cereals, that sort of thing. Blood sugar spikes results in the production of insulin, which causes fat storage, and it increases our risk for diabetes. Insulin resistance is when the cells have just become really kind of tired. They can't handle that hormone anymore. They just don't have room for it, is what it comes down to. Cardiovascular disease, I'm going to tell you guys about my dad a little bit more because he's not here to defend himself. But he had a short heart bypass, and he's an old school biker, and I'll share his story tonight. And the only source of fuel for a cancer cell, the only source of fuel for a cancer cell is sugar. Sometimes with late-stage cancers, we'll actually do very, very low blood sugar diets. We put them into induced hypoglycemia in order to start the tumors a little bit. So low blood sugar, this is actually what I deal with more in women than men. And this is where we skip our meals and snacks. Okay, so not eating breakfast, not eating consistently. And the problem with low blood sugar is your body does not know the difference between busy and starvation. So if you're hitting starvation mode, and I know like for some professions, nurses, even I know massage therapists, you guys work right through lunch hours. That's when I used to work. And you know what happens is our body perceives it as starvation and it shuts off our metabolism. Okay? Your body will not burn calories you're not giving it. It'll just stop. It'll just store everything. And if we do that all the time, then we're kind of chronically in storage mode. I get women who come into my clinic all the time and they'll say to me, I eat nothing all day and I can't lose a pound. And I'm like, well, you just solved your own problem and that was $200. But it's true. Like when we put them on regular eating schedules, their metabolism goes up, they start burning calories, and they find that they have more energy, they're exercising, and they have body composition improvements. We see a lot of low blood sugars with restrictive meals. Low carb, low fat, low calorie. I'll show some imagery in this presentation to explain why those are dangerous. But essentially, protein is a faster source of fuel than fat. So if we're following anything that's restrictive, yes, a lot of people get really good results, but then what happens is, as soon as they step outside of that, it all comes back on. Bernstein, weight loss, all of them, they follow really restrictive diets, they get really great results, they burn muscle, not fat. And then what happens is, when they start to eat a normal diet or put more calories in their body, it all comes back on because your muscles actually what burns calories when you're at rest. So you've disrupted your body composition. I'll get women who come in with really stubborn issues with weight management because they've just done that cycle over and over and over again, and they just, the body composition is so distressed. So how do we balance our blood sugar levels? So this is the tricks to healthy energy, healthy weight. Eat regular scheduled meals and snacks. So I work with police officers and firefighters and nurses, and they have a day schedule outline, they have an evening schedule outline, they have a night schedule outline, so depending on the shift that they're working, they follow a specific schedule. For us 9-to-5ers, the best thing that we can do is just create some sort of routine. And if you get a good routine in place, what will happen is you'll start to get hungry as that meal or snack is coming. Right? I know for myself when lunch is coming, dinner time, this is 10 o'clock my time at home, so when I got off the plane at 3, it was my dinner time, and I was famished. I pretty much ate someone at the airport before. So eating on schedule, choosing low glycemic foods. So the glycemic index is a rating on how quickly a food is digested and enters the bloodstream. Okay? The higher the rating, the faster it enters. If you go home and Google low glycemic food lists, you can print off your grocery list. And most of them are just unrefined foods. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, all the good stuff. Choose only whole foods, such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and nuts and seeds. These are the foods that should be the predominant part of your diet. Specifically the vegetables and the fruits, then your legumes, nuts and seeds, and then moving into whole grains. The typical Canadian diet, North American diet, is very protein-rich and very carb-rich. And these are the foods that fight and prevent disease, and we're getting the least amount of them. So we can definitely strategize to help you, improve that ratio a little bit. Anybody here hit that 3 p.m. crash? That 3 or 4 o'clock wall? Okay, that's actually a sign that your blood sugars are bottoming out, or there's been some instability. So what I would suggest is you can do a high-fiber meal prior to your crash. So if I get a lady who crashes at 3, at 2, I give her a high-protein, high-fiber shake. Or I've even had diabetics that we couldn't get their blood sugars under control, and I would give them oatmeal for lunch in order to kind of stabilize. So fiber is kind of the break on okay? Avoid anything that is refined or processed. Is mostly high glycemic. Of course, this is all the good foods. Chips, most breakfast cereals, granola bars, white rice, white bread, white pasta, and crackers, which again are very typical for Canadian diets. So anybody here know anyone who's had cancer? Pretty much everybody. I got into cancer prior to, almost 9 years ago, 8 years ago. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and it took 8 weeks for her to take her life. It was a very, very aggressive cancer. And prior to her diagnosis, if you came to me as a client with cancer, I would refer you on. It was not something I was confident working with. But when she had her diagnosis and we were kind of grasping at straws, I really kind of dove into it, and I just haven't stopped. I take every course and workshop. And this is the statistics in Canada. So in the 1940s, about 1 in 17 people in Canada were anticipated to get cancer. In 2013, according to the Canadian Cancer Society, that number is now 1 in 3. And they actually anticipate by 2020 it'll be 1 in 2. So we obviously know that there's a problem. It is the #1 cause of death in Canada. Nothing right now is killing more people than cancer. And I really, deep in my heart, I know that if we can provide more community education, create nutrition programs for lower income families, and really start to look at the foods that we need to put into our body, that number could completely change, completely. I work with a lot of northern communities in Ontario where the cancer rates are 1 and 2, and it's all accessibility issues. Their fruits and vegetables come in on Monday. And that's it. So if you buy a salad on Friday, it came in on Monday. So what do we know is contributing? So based on research, what is contributing? And it's important to look at these because we can't create a solution if we don't identify what the problem is, right? So a lack of whole food consumption. We know the more fruits and vegetables a person consumes, the more protected they are. A toxic environment, we're putting more chemicals than ever before in our environment. Switching to natural cleaners at home, watching some of the chemicals that are coming in as well. In addition to that, we're putting a lot of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides on our food, flavorings, preservatives, and colorings. I have a son, a 13-year-old. He actually got me into nutrition. When he was just a toddler, my father-in-law would bring him Gatorade because he thought, and I was uneducated, I worked in the healthcare system. We knew nothing about nutrition. And he thought it was a healthier alternative to juice. And when Ethan would have the Gatorade, he would become spastic to the point where his eyes would roll and he would tick. He would break toys. He just became a really unusual kid. So I did what all moms nowadays do, we Google. So I typed in "my son is crazy" and out comes food coloring. And that's really what got me onto the whole nutrition path and learning more. But I can tell to this day when he's had something from someone else's lunch at school. I'm like, whose lunch did you eat? Because these chemicals are so reactive, and we look at the amount of attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity right now in schools, and I have a lot of friends who are teachers. Nutrition break, it's a different world after that. And now, of course, we're genetically altering our food. So looking at a little bit of education on cancer, there's a few things that we got to keep in mind. So disease grows in an environment that's conducive to disease growth, okay? So we know that cancer thrives in an acidic environment, and foods you eat, once they're digested, either alkalize the body or they make the body acidic. Okay, it's not what they do going in, it's kind of the ash that's left behind afterwards. The general rule I teach, plant foods alkalize, animal foods and processed foods make the body acidic. So if I was to take a cancer cell and put it in a petri dish with some baking soda and water, right, it would die immediately. It's alkaline, it's not viable. Cancer is not viable in an alkalized environment. But if I took that same cancer cell and put it in a petri dish with some soda, some acid, and some sugar, it would thrive. And that's how important the foods we eat, the impact. They have an impact on our pH, which is, again, going to support the environment or not. Dr. Warburg won a Nobel Peace Prize for discovering that when you deprived a cell of oxygen, it most likely became cancerous. It actually almost always became cancerous. And the foods we eat are either oxygen robbing or oxygen giving. And fruits and vegetables, let's look at those for a second, because not only are they alkalizing, but they're 95% or more water. And what's the molecular structure of water? H2O, right? So the fruits and vegetables, not only are they alkalizing, but they're also oxygen giving. Okay, so again, changing the environment. We know that free radicals, which we also call oxidative stress, is linked to cancer. These are some of the types of oxidative stress that we have in our environment: radiation, cell phones, Wi-Fi, microwaves, smoking, air pollution, inflammation in the body, normal metabolism, sunlight. They produce free radicals. And if I was to take an apple and cut it in half and put it on the countertop, 10, 15 minutes later, it's going to go brown. Hopefully it goes brown. If it doesn't go brown, I'm concerned. That's called oxidation. And that is happening to every cell of your body every second of the day. But if I came along and put lemon juice on that apple, it doesn't go brown because I've added additional antioxidants to protect it. So your blood antioxidant level, the amount of antioxidants that you have in your bloodstream, determines how protected you are against all of this. Okay? So if you eat lots of fruits and vegetables, which are the primary source of antioxidants, and you're eating them consistently, you're alkalizing, you're oxygenating, and now you're providing antioxidants to combat this. Because if this isn't dealt with, you're sending high risk of DNA damage. And that's why X-ray technicians and stuff, like when they're going to take an X-ray, they kick you out of the room because they don't want you to expose you to it. That's why I had like 15 Juice Plus capsules on my way over. A lot of radiation in the air. This is a picture. This is from one of the cancer courses that I teach. This is from the National Cancer Institute. And it just goes to demonstrate what happens, in cancer development. So we go through healthy cell division, and if somewhere along the line we get to produce an unhealthy cell, that cell is supposed to go through a process we call apoptosis, which is basically just cell suicide. At the end of my cell cycle, they go through apoptosis, okay? In cancer, what happens is cancer cells don't have the mechanism for apoptosis. So we consider them to be immortal. Unless the environment changes or does something to make them uncomfortable, they'll continue to replicate and grow. And this is where we get into the uncontrolled growth. Now, I want you to keep that apoptosis in mind because I'm going to actually show you some foods that has been clinically shown to promote apoptosis in cancer cells. All right, so what increases our risk? Again, toxins in our environment, but also in our diet. Nutritional deficiencies. This isn't talked about a lot in nutrition schools, and I think it needs to be. Who's read the ingredients on their shampoo? They're not great. Unless you're getting the good natural shampoos. But I actually read a bottle of Head & Shoulders, and I was like, holy snap, it's nothing but chemicals. And when I shampoo my hair with those, what's happening is those chemicals are getting absorbed through my skin into my bloodstream, and then they go to my liver eventually, and it's my liver's job to break them down and eliminate it. We call it the pathway of metabolic detoxification, which is really fancy for break it down, pee it out, okay? So this pathway doesn't need pills or kits or herbs or anything like that. This pathway only needs nutrients. And if I provide the body with the nutrients required, this pathway is designed to work. We're born as human beings, as babies, with the ability to take something, break it down, and eliminate it. The problem is if I'm deficient in any of the nutrients along this pathway and I can't break down that toxin, what do I do with it? Any ideas? I store it. Where do I store it?
Into body fat.
In a fat cell. That's how I make it benign. I can actually wrap it in a fat cell and it becomes benign. The issue with this is, if deficiencies that go on and on and on, is my brain is 60% fat. And I'm going to store a lot of those toxins in my brain. We store it in our body, but right now the cases of attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity and autism and stuff in children respond incredibly well to nutritional therapy, incredibly well. Because when you support this pathway again, you start putting those foods in that support this pathway, which by the way is entirely supported with plants. If you eat enough fruits and vegetables, you get all the nutrients to support the pathway. But if you support this pathway again, the body will go in and start cleaning house. And sometimes that's why people who's seen the documentary Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead? Anyone on Netflix? That's why a lot of times they'll kind of feel like poop when they first start doing a program like that. I remember the first 3 days I was juicing, I thought I had the flu. And I ate fairly well, but I had just really strengthened that pathway and I was going in and kind of cleaning house. Weakened immune system. My immune system is designed to seek and destroy what no longer represents self. If my immune system is weakened because it's not nutritionally supported or it's being suppressed, an acidic diet, not eating enough fruits and vegetables, eating too many animal foods, and of course, getting into the processed foods. So how do whole foods protect us? Well, they provide enormous amounts of nutrition. So we know there's over 10,000 nutrients in an apple, right? You can't get that in a pill. They strengthen our immune system. They help alkalize the body. They have natural anti-inflammatory action. Inflammation is an underlying cause of a lot of cancers. Prostate cancer and breast cancer being two of the big ones that we know inflammation is underlying in. They help keep the body clean by supporting that detoxification process. In addition to that, they make cancer cells quote-unquote uncomfortable. They don't kill cancer cells. It doesn't attack cancer cells. It changes the environment. And that's why people who eat more have lower risk. All right, now I'll tell you guys some stories. Oh my goodness, well, I'll tell you a story right now. So this is Dr. Gerson. Dr. Gerson was a medical doctor in the 1920s. And he suffered from chronic migraines. He could spend, what does that mean? That'll be my husband calling right in the middle of.
We can take it.
I like them, but I'm not there. All right. So Dr. Gerson suffered from chronic migraines, and he started to juice his family grown fruits and vegetables, and lo and behold, his migraines went away. And juicing is an amazing remedy for migraines. Not at first, it takes a little while, but it's an amazing remedy. He then went into practice. Again, this is the 1920s. They had a form of tuberculosis of the skin that at the time was considered to be incurable. And he gave his patients with this incurable form of tuberculosis this juice fruits and vegetable regimen. And what happened was Dr. Gerson became incredibly famous for his cure for this form of tuberculosis, which is a bacterial infection. He didn't cure anything. What he did is he changed the environment. He alkalized, he strengthened the immune system, he detoxified the body. He just changed the environment so the body was better able to overcome the condition. He then started to get people with terminal cancer coming into his practice. And terminal cancer basically means there's no medical solution. It's not a death sentence, it's just based on medicine at the time. It's not going to work. So he started to give them what we now teach and call the Gerson therapy, which is 1 glass of freshly pressed fruit and vegetable juice has to be organic every hour a day for 13 hours a day. And you can be on program for up to 4 years. It's an incredibly tough program. But he didn't attack the cancer. See, what modern medicine does, and I do come from healthcare, so I'm not anti-healthcare, but what medicine does is we cut it out, we burn it, or we poison it, right? Surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, we attack the cancer. Gerson didn't even touch the cancer. What he did is he actually went in and just changed the environment. He detoxified, strengthened the immune system, alkalized, oxygenated. He did everything that the disease didn't thrive in and allowed the body, the environment to heal itself. Well, the Gerson therapy in the 1920s had a 50% survival rate with terminal cancer. It's pretty big. In 2013, it's one of the few natural cancer treatments that's been statistically followed. In 2013, the Gerson therapy still had a 50% survival rate with terminal cancer. Do you know what the survival rate with terminal cancer in chemotherapy was in Canada in 2013? 2%. Okay? So Dr. Gerson was actually found dead of arsenic poisoning, believe it or not. But it just goes to show you that, the power of Mother Nature. Mother Nature has the perfect remedy for health. We're just not putting enough of it in our bodies. Everything you put into your body will determine how it functions. So one of the things I'm a huge advocate for is choosing organic, which basically means just not growing with chemicals. Okay, so organic foods don't necessarily mean a chemical-free product. It just means that the soil quality was organic. What happens after it's picked is a little bit different. But it does reduce chemicals, it is more nutritious, it's way better for the environment, and if you came to me with a cancer diagnosis, I would put you immediately on an organic diet, and we would see improvement in your blood work. Okay, so if you come to me with cancer, I base your nutrition entirely on your blood profiles, which you do through your doctor. So one of the other recommendations is grow your own food. I have a condition known as plants come to my house to die. It's a very serious problem. I hate when people give me gifts like, I'll be like, oh, here's a plant, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It's going to be dead in a week. So anyways, this was my problem, and this was our family solution. So I actually watched a personal trainer grow in Tower Garden for over a year, and I decided I wanted one of these for my family. So this grows 20 varieties of organic fruits and vegetables indoor and outdoor year-round, using 90% less land and 90% less water. Okay, no chemicals, anything. So we have 4 of them now. It's a problem. We only need 1. But we have actually, I work with people in the Orillia area in Ontario who have taken it on to grow on these for their food bank. And these team members actually have over 20 gardens that they grow specifically for the food banks, providing hundreds of pounds of food every month in free organic produce. And it's a really powerful story because the lady who got involved with these, her brother was homeless, and she would volunteer at the shelter in order to spend time with him. And she started bringing him the organic food off her tower garden, and then she had so much, she kept providing it for the shelter. And what ended up happening is he ended up passing away from an overdose, and she decided she was going to feed them all. So the government's involved, our city's involved. We have 15 schools that are teaching it as part of the curriculum. At the end of the day, the kids who need the food go home with the food. So not only are they learning about it, it's just an amazing, amazing product. For myself, the fact that I have food sustainability, that it's having a positive impact on the environment, but it's also live food. Like when you pick that tomato and eat it, it's still alive. it hasn't been in a grocery store for, a week. And it doesn't have chemicals on it, and it tastes incredible. So the Tower Gardens allow us to grow our own healthy food. It is provided through the Juice Plus company only. Helps support a sustainable greener planet, helps us take control of our food choices, is socially responsible. So a lot of these northern communities in Ontario that have food accessibility issues, what we're doing is setting up gardens up there, and they're now growing as well for communities. People are selling it or donating it as well. Oh, look, right, the battery's gonna die. Awesome, I'm gonna talk really fast. Do we have an extension cord for it?
Start
Or a
talking.
power bar? Will it plug into that? Okay, we should probably do that.
Technical malfunction.
All right, we're good. Cardiovascular disease. This is the #2 cause of death in Canada. It's the #1 cause of death in the United States. In the U.S., their #1 cause of death is cardiovascular disease. Their second is cancer. In Canada, our #1 is cancer. Our second is cardiovascular disease. My dad is one of these statistics. He thankfully had survived. He's an old school biker who thinks that health is in the bottom of a beer can. Yeah, does anybody know any of those? Yeah, that's what I grew up with. And he thankfully, and I'll tell you, so when he had his triple heart bypass, which is no walk in the park surgery, by the way, like they have to split his chest, stop his heart, take an artery from his leg, rewire his heart. It's 12 weeks of $100 worth of medication for the rest of his life. All because he just chose not to live a healthy lifestyle. So what do we know, based on research, contributes to cardiovascular disease? Elevated LDL cholesterol, it's a marker. If your doctor says you have high cholesterol, it's because you have high LDL. That's completely controlled by diet. Elevated triglycerides, which is free-floating fat in your bloodstream, diet-related. Hardening of the arteries, that's diet-related. High blood sugar is like shards of glass going through the arteries. My dad loves the sugar, diet-related. Free radical damage, not having enough antioxidants in your blood to protect your arterial walls, that's diet-related, and then of course too much sodium. We're supposed to have about 2,200 milligrams of sodium a day. I recommend about 1,800. The average Canadian consumes 3,600. In some states in the U.S. are consuming up to 9,600. It's just crazy. Alrighty, so fruits and vegetables. Anyone here eat 10 to 13 every single day? I try. And it's impossible. It's too much. There's days where I juice and I might get close, and then the next day I'm on the road, right? And it's just, there's only so much we can do. But that is the recommended amount by the American Cancer Association to prevent cancer. That's the amount we would need to eat. It's a pretty big number. So why are they so protective? Well, they're high in fiber, so they stabilize our blood sugar. Fiber is also nature's broom, so everything your body's trying to eliminate goes into your bowel. If you don't have a good source of fiber in your bowel to grab onto those toxins, those toxins are reabsorbed right through the bowel wall, right back into your bloodstream. Okay, so you want to know what the #1 symptom for constipation is? Headaches. If I get a client and I say in an intake, do you get headaches regularly? And they'll be like, yeah, all the time. I'm like, do you poop? It's usually no. Supports that detoxification pathway. Fruits and vegetables, if you eat a variety of them, you can't eat the same one every day, but if you're eating a variety of colors, you're going to entirely support those metabolic pathways. Okay? Protects us against environmental toxins, they strengthen our immune system, they're proven to be cancer and disease protective. They're high in antioxidants and they contain nutrients such as chlorophyll, carotenoids, and flavonoids, which are pigments. And the research on pigments is still relatively new, but I'm sure you've all heard how tomatoes are protective against prostate cancer, right, because of the lycopene. What we actually know now, based on pigments and the new research, is if you eat tomatoes and broccoli at the exact same time, the protective effects of the tomatoes increases tenfold. So we know that there's a synergy between the fruits and vegetables. When we eat a variety of them together, they actually work to enhance each other. So whole foods help you manage your weight. They provide bioavailable nutrition, synthetic vitamins versus whole foods. What I love about an apple, 10,000 nutrients, and I get no glow-in-the-dark pea. Right? When you take a multivitamin, you eat Neon pea. The reason because it's expensive pea. It just goes right through you. Your body is designed to get its nutrition from food. There's a lot of research and there's a lot of studies out there that are showing certain synthetic vitamins are actually increasing the growth and development of many cancers. Okay? Because they're designed to work together. Do you guys remember hearing when calcium increased the risk for heart disease, heart attacks and strokes in women who were taking it? It was published back probably about 8 years ago. But it showed that a lot of women who were taking isolated calcium were increasing their risk for heart attack and stroke. The reason being is because calcium requires about 15 other nutrients to go from blood to bones. Okay? Potassium, phosphorus, vitamin D, vitamin K, all of magnesium, all of these. And these women were taking just calcium and were deficient in the other nutrients that went from blood, that took the calcium from blood to bones. So the calcium was staying circulating within the bloodstream. It was laying itself down in the cardiovascular system, causing calcification of the arteries, which was increasing their risk for heart attack and stroke. All right, now let's look at spinach. Spinach actually has, and I'm not here to say don't take your calcium, just take it with food. Spinach actually has all of the nutrients that take the calcium, very, very rich in calcium, but contains all of the nutrients that take it from blood to bones. We can't mimic Mother Nature. Right? And we do a lot of high calcium diets without calcium supplements or with them, and we get about the same results. We know that when we eat a better diet, when we eat better and increase our nutritional intake, we often have fewer cravings, we feel more satisfied, we tend to make better food choices, we tend to lose weight, and we go through detoxification. The bottom line is, if you're not eating enough whole foods, your body is going to be constantly looking for nutrition. Okay? So then that's when hunger a lot of times becomes an issue. Alright, so this is Juice Plus. This is actually the ingredients list for Juice Plus. This is outdated. We have the new ingredients list at the front because there's way more organic whole foods. This is an NSF certified product, so all of the Juice Plus products are free of chemicals, pesticides, heavy metals, all of that sort of thing. It's third-party validated. So I was introduced to this product by a personal trainer. I actually took a year to read the research, look at all, because I didn't recommend supplements at all. I did everything through diet. I had baby number 4, Jackson, and Jackson had a reaction to his immunizations at 11 weeks old. And the reaction was quite severe. Within 3 hours, he was hospitalized for 3 weeks. And it's called intussusception, and it's where his intestines had folded in on themselves. It was a listed side effect. 1 in 100,000 kids get it, and mine happened to be that child. So in order to correct this, it was surgery or put water up his bum, open the intestines back up, but they had to keep doing it because they kept collapsing. And unfortunately, that also wiped out all the good bacteria in his belly. And Jackson left with an infection that we were on antibiotics for the next 8 months. He developed very severe asthma, so much so that I would sleep most nights sitting up with him, and he couldn't poop. I don't know if you've ever had a baby that can't poop, but they're not fun babies. Megan's baby poops very well. He like pooped to his shoulders. But so we had to give him suppository every 3 days. So I was ordering a Tower Garden for our family. I thought, okay, listen, I can do this. This is something that's going to be good for our family. The trainer knew that we had issues with Jackson. She had been kind of following, our story. And she suggested that we try him on the adult capsules of the Juice Plus. I thought, honestly, at this point, what do we have to lose? It's just this cycle of medications. So we did. We ordered them, and I put the fruit capsules, and then a couple days later, the green and then the purple, and within a week, he was pooping, which was like a hallelujah. I remember the kids getting off the bus, coming and going, did he poop? I'm like, he did. And it was just 9 o'clock that night, he wasn't going to be screaming his face off, right? We used to have a routine where we'd wrap him in a hot towel and put him in a bathtub and, try to kind of get his tummy going. And within about a week and a half, he wasn't using his rescue puffer. He was sleeping all night. He was sleeping in his crib, which was awesome. And the biggest was at the end of the month, we went and saw the pediatrician, Dr. Barker in Aurelia, to have his blood work done. All of the glands on Jackson's body were swollen like little marbles, and just because his immune system was trying to work. And he had high inflammatory markers. He had this chronic infection in his blood. And we did his blood work, and it was perfect. So from then on, it was like, okay, now this isn't magical. It's just bioavailable nutrition that provided his body with the ability to heal and repair. So I thought, this is a product for our family for the rest of our lives. I'm going to give this to my kids. I'm going to take it. That's it. I started to get some really severe cases of cancer around that time as well. I would get them to juice, but I don't know if you've ever seen anyone on late-stage cancer in the middle of chemotherapy. Juicing is just not an option. So we started to give them the Juice Plus. I wrote a letter to their oncologist. They would get approval. We would use this. We were seeing improvement in their blood work during chemotherapy. So I just thought, if it's going to help people who are sick, what's it going to do for the rest of us that aren't there yet, right? The healing and repairing. So that's basically, that's how I got involved with the company, and it's been 3 years now. So this actually is a really good description of what happens with these restrictive programs. And a lot of times what's happening is if we don't increase our nutrition from whole food sources, okay, this is the same thing that happens in those programs where you take a whole bunch of synthetic vitamins. You get changes in body weight, but you haven't done anything to deal with the toxicity, and you're more likely to go into a rebound. You've also disrupted your body composition, which is your fat to muscle ratio. This is what happens when you improve your whole food nutrition. You start juicing, you eat more plant foods, you take Juice Plus. All these things, it supports those pathways, the ability for the body to go in, clean house, and you keep the results. That's why in 12 years I've never had a client come back with all the weight back on. Sometimes they come back and they're like, I'm misbehaving. I chase them around the parking lot. They go home. It works really well. This is the Juice Plus Complete Shakes. We do have new packaging. Dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan-based. And what I love about it is it's all kinds of powdered whole foods. This is the first shake it on the market that I've ever given to my children. One of the things that's really important to me about products is Juice Plus is also all non-GMO. All of our ingredients are non-GMO, which is important. Whey protein is an animal protein. Remember, animal proteins make the body acidic. One of the byproducts of whey protein digestion is also ammonia. It's very hard on the liver and the kidneys. And I've had police officers end up in the hospital because they had done a protein program where they were drinking like these whey protein shakes all day long, shut down their kidneys, hurt their liver. We've seen elevated liver enzymes. The reason is because it's just difficult to break down, and there's a byproduct. Plants don't have that byproduct. So when you have something like Juice Plus Complete, you're getting a nutritionally clean product, which is why on a whey case it says do not give to children, right? This is the first. Prior to the Juice Plus Complete, I would make our own protein powders using almonds and hemp hearts and all kinds of stuff, and I would buzz them up into a powder, and then I would add that in. This is so much easier. And it's great. Like, it's super tasty. You can actually mix this stuff with water. 13 grams of protein, certified low glycemic, tons of plant foods, dairy-free, gluten-free, 100% vegan, and again, it just tastes incredible. So, anybody here heard anything negative about soy? I'm going to be honest with you, when I graduated as a nutritionist, I told everyone, do not eat soy, your boys will grow breasts. But that was the research that was out at that time. And, you know, there was this big concern that there's hormones in soy and blah, 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 blah. And when I really got into researching cancer, soy kept coming up. And I did not, up until that point, recommend soy at all. And soy, I had to reinvestigate it. So there's areas when we look at cancer research, we look at, okay, this area of the world has incredibly low cancer rates. Like there's areas of Asia that have zero diagnosed cancers. And then we got Canada, where 1 in 2 people is about to be diagnosed at some point in their lifetime. Like, what makes us different? So we look at diet, we look at lifestyle, we look at stress, we look at work, we look at toxins, we look at all kinds of stuff in the environment. And one of the things that kept coming up was their consumption of soy from an organic source was higher than ours. So I had to look at the research on soy. And what we found in the research on soy was there's 2 things that are really important about it. One, there's compounds in soy that's been proven to promote apoptosis in cancer cells. So remember how I said cancer cells don't have the mechanism for apoptosis? Soy induces that. Okay, and I do another talk on breast cancer and prostate cancer where I go into those mechanisms. But soy absolutely induces that. Okay, turmeric does as well. We know there's some other herbs and fruits and vegetables that'll do it. The second thing is soy contains something called phytoestrogens, which are plant-based hormone, but they're not strong enough to cause cell replication. And they protect us against xenoestrogens, which are environmental hormones. And these xenoestrogens are a concern. They're on our pesticides, they're on our cosmetics, and is part of the reason why breast cancer is such a huge deal right now. Breast cancer is one of the fastest growing cancers for men right now as well. And it's because of these environmental hormones. And what soy does is it protects us against these environmental hormones. It's like blocking those hormones from coming in and doing any sort of damage in the body. So I started to promote organic soy, right? Because you don't want the pesticides, which are these hormones. So this was a talk that I had done for a group of about 300 men with prostate cancer. I got called by one of the organizations, and we went in and they said, okay, we want to know what foods are protective against prostate cancer. And this was the research that I found. So the health professional study found a 70% reduction in prostate cancer for men who consume soy milk daily. 70%. That's astronomical. The American Institute for Cancer Research said that phytoestrogens are found in high concentration in soybeans and have been shown in vitro to exhibit a plethora of different anti-cancer effects, including inhibiting proliferation, so that regeneration, stopping it. And studies showing consistently that one serving a day of soy foods contributes to a reduction in cancer risk are encouraging. Consuming one serving of soy foods that most individuals will not find difficult to take. So the next time I come to Edmonton, I'll come with the breast cancer and prostate cancer talk where we investigate these. But this research was done by the World Health Organization, Food and Agricultural Organization, United Nations, the International Agency on Cancer and Research in Cancer, and the National Cancer Institute. So these big cancer institutions are saying soy is good. My recommendation with soy, it has to be non-GMO. All right, and a lot of products right now are just full of genetically modified soy. So what's great is Juice Plus Complete contains a small amount of soy protein. It's a non-GMO, it's certified. We're also the largest producer of non-GMO soy right now in North America, so it's a big deal. So this is a program called the Children's Health Study. I love this program because children are free between the ages of 4 and 21. With every adult order, a child can get their products for free for 4 years. Okay, I have 4 kids. I have paid for none of their products. Jackson's not quite old enough to be on the study, he's just 3. But the 3 older children, in 3 years, we have not paid a dime for their products. How incredible is that? I would pay for it, believe me, knowing the benefit to them. What I also love is that Lily May, she's my special child, she at 3 years old decided to eat about a 4-month supply of Kids Chews. She had like a bag, she accidentally. She accidentally ate these, and I'm like, oh my god. But it's fruits and vegetables. Like, there's no toxicity to it. If that had been a vitamin, that would have been a call to poison control. The worst thing that happened is she had a massive poop the next day, and otherwise she was fine. So just knowing that it's safe. We're boxer people, we love boxers. If you have a boxer, you can come talk afterwards. But we had friends, their boxers ate the 4-month supply of the chews when it came in the door, and they left them on the counter. Boxers are terrible for stuff like that. And she called me freaking, and I'm like, they're okay, it's fine, like just maybe let them out a little more often. It's gonna purge their system. But you know, there's no other supplement on the market where there's not a toxicity issue. This is fruits and vegetables. I've had 15 capsules since yesterday because I was flying, I was feeling a little fatigued, it's been really busy. It's safe. This is some of the results of the Children's Health Study. 96% of the children are reaping some benefit of some kind, and there's tons of research on this. This is led by pediatricians. So why I recommend Juice Plus to my clients, I'm just about done. It's whole food based and it's safe for everyone. Unless you've been told to avoid fruits and vegetables, it is safe for you. It's NSF certified, which means it's chemical free. I knew when I was giving it to Jackson, I wasn't putting more chemicals into his bloodstream. It's the most clinically backed and peer-reviewed product in the world. We have 32 published peer-reviewed studies. Children are free as part of the Children's Health Study, and it provides optimal nutrition. I'm going to really quickly run through the research because I've asked Monica to stand up and share her story a little bit with you guys. But let me tell you about the research on nutritional products. It sucks. In the general. What a lot of companies do is they use borrowed studies. I've ran a health food store, I've seen what they do. We got green tea in our products. Here's some studies on green tea. Our products are going to do what the green tea does. And it shouldn't be allowed, but it's really what companies really largely use. When I looked at the research on Juice Plus, and I actually looked at it before I became, a customer myself, this is peer-reviewed, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. So human beings took a product, one group took the product, one group took a placebo, and they measured the difference. And they had some of the most reputable universities in the world doing this research. In addition to that, you can do a lot of research on products. That's a big deal to get a university degree to study your product. But the fact is, after that research was then completed, it was so impactful that over 32 peer-reviewed journals have now shared that information with the clinical world. Okay? Juice Plus is the most thoroughly researched and clinically backed health product line in the world. It's absolutely incredible, and if you're a nerd, you'll like the journals. So we have 17 studies showing it delivers antioxidants and phytonutrients that are absorbed by the body, so no glow-in-the-dark pee. Reduces oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is actually believed to be the underlying factor in almost every diagnosed disease. It's flipping the switch, turning it on. Okay. Reduces biomarkers of systemic inflammation. Inflammation is not just aches and pains, it's also fatigue. So if you get like a good 8-9 hours sleep and you're like dragging or you're really hurting by the end of the day, that's a good sign that there's some underlying inflammation. Supports a healthy immune system, seek and destroy. So helps protect DNA. There's actually 3 studies now that shows it protects DNA. Helps support cardiovascular wellness. So my dad, who was prescribed $300 worth of medications, now takes an aspirin. It took us 2 years to get him off all his medication. We just made some dietary improvements. We put him on the Juice Plus products. And every time he would go to his doctor, his cholesterol was a little bit better, so we were able to lower that medication, lower the high blood pressure medication, lower the blood thinners until his ranges were perfectly normal. He still wants Jack Daniels for Christmas. Not much I can do about that. I'm going to skip through these ones. Skin, I know for myself, I've had cystic acne since I was 13 years old. I spent 10 years on tetracycline. And I had improved my skin a lot. I got off the antibiotics when I became a nutritionist and started to eat a lot cleaner, but I would still get the hormonal breakouts. I'd still get seasonal breakouts, and I would get deep cysts where I would sometimes have to go and get an antibiotic. Since I've been on Juice Plus Touch Wood, I have not had to take an antibiotic for my skin, and I'm super happy with it, so that's kind of a big deal. MD Anderson, this is a big one. This was done at MD Anderson, which is one of the top cancer research universities in the world. They compared two groups of women with late-stage ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is a very aggressive cancer. It's often diagnosed very late stage because it's asymptomatic until it's a problem. And they had 2 groups. So they had the supplemented group that had to eat 10 servings of fruits and vegetables, and they had the second group that took the Juice Plus, and they had to eat 5 servings. And they also used the complete as part of it. And the conclusion was the 5 a day with Juice Plus was equivalent to the 10 a day, so a little bit easier, and that the soy in the complete contribute to better protein status in those women. And I don't know if you know anything about cancer, but there's that wasting, that muscle loss, the concern, for the immune system, and improving protein status during cancer is a huge, huge deal. We run a program, our company called One Simple Change. I love this program. This allows people, instead of turning your lifestyle upside down, we actually work and support you in making a couple healthy changes. We provide some education and motivation and support in that so that we can actually help you create a lifestyle around that. I love this. We have handouts for moms and dads, but also for the kids so that the kids can pick a healthy change. What I'm seeing within my client base is the kids are actually keeping mom and dad on track. Because they're like, well, I did mine today. And then mom and dad are like, oh, I better do mine as well. So that's it. So that's the end of my talk. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to ask quickly for Monica to come up. Monica is also a national marketing director like myself for the company. And she's got a pretty powerful story. And she drove over 3 hours tonight to come and hang out with us. And I said, you're here, will you tell your story? So she's going to come up and quickly share her story, and then we'll hang around and see if you guys have any questions, and tell them that you're free to go.
Thank you. Now I'm gonna try to top off what she said. Good luck to me. So the only way to do that is to share my story, because I believe stories are extremely powerful. And what I absolutely love about this business that we share from the heart, and that is how we succeed. And you don't need to be anyone else, just yourself, because once you get on this journey, you will have a powerful story. I promise you that. We're not allowed to say that, but I am. So my name is Monica Serbu. I'm a former professional athlete in 6 sports. I was born in a family of professional athletes. I've never had a chance not to be an athlete. I've always been exposed to a very, very healthy lifestyle. I grew up in East Europe where GMO was against the law. How cool that is. Mm-hmm. In 2000, I moved to Canada. I continued my career as a professional athlete. I continued to do exactly what I was doing previous years. However, my health started to change. And I accredit that to the quality of the food that I was putting into my body coming in North America. And, as a professional athlete, people come to you with supplements after vitamins to try to take and to even promote. I've never promoted anything because taking supplements, vitamins, I ended up having a severely immune system compromised. I started to fight severe acne, cystic acne on my face. Anyone ever had
Sucks.
acne. So I don't know for other people, but it took away my self-esteem. I started to develop colds, constant colds. As professional athletes, we're very good at pushing through struggle and pain. So I got shingles. I was training with shingles till I ended up in the emergency room, like bending over from the shingles. So if anyone knows about shingles? So it's a virus that attacks the immune system, the nerve system, and it's very common in elderly population. I was 31. I was the perfectly fit person, looking fit, so physically fit in a very unfit nutritiously body. So just because you are physically fit, that doesn't make you nutritiously fit, because they're two different things. And athletes, most of the athletes, they fight acne either on the back or on the face, and that is a huge sign of compromised immune system, because we are training all the time, all day, 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on the level that you're at, and you're using so much nutrition to perform, and if you don't put in what your body needs out, then it's going to leave you with an immune system compromised. And that was my problem. So I remember I got on antibiotics for my face. You go to the doctor, they put you on cycles, on and off, on and off, on and off. That's what I did. So I got on Accutane, because after a while the antibiotics don't respond anymore. So they put me on a higher dose, which is Accutane. I got shingles. So shortly after that, I started to go on internet to look for something that I could put nutrition to put into my body to get my immune system back up. And it's funny, who here believes that energy flows where focus goes? So, I went online, and one day my phone rings, and I had a client as a trainer. I had a client of mine, Christine, who was taking Juice Plus, and she never told me about it. And this guy from Serbia went to visit her, saw my business card, and he called me. So he picked up the phone, he didn't even know me, and he picked up the phone to tell me about the product. I only said yes to go to him because I knew my friend Christine as a person, who she is. So he told me about he showed me, I went to meet him, he showed me the bottles, and besides what Elisa mentioned, what really ticked to me in the Juice Plus, two big things. NSF certification, so there's a stamp on the bottles, and that is the bioavailability proof for athletes, that when you do a drug testing, and everything that it's shown on the bottle, it's going to show in your bloodstream as a nutrient, not as a supplement. So to me, I knew that is very powerful, and that's an international certification. It's not North American. And the second thing that really appealed to me, I looked at the bottles and I saw actually the words of the product, just like here: apple, orange, pineapple, peach. Anyone take supplements, vitamins here? I don't. Throw them all in the garbage. Well, if you ever taken, you will see that number one, it says supplement fat, and there's no way it says the actual word, because they're not allowed to do that unless it's a food. And that is why I said yes to Juice Plus. However, I never thought it's going to change my life the way it did. So I went home nice and excited. By the way, I paid $50 to sign up on the business, but I made sure I told the guy I will never, ever, ever sell this, because I'm not a salesperson. I went home excited. I started taking it. In 2 weeks, my energy levels went up. I started not to have to nap. And napping is a part of an athlete's routine. Digestion. I've never had a problem with the digestion. However, with this, it was amazing the way it made me feel, because of the detoxification that my body was going through. Recovery, my performance excelled. After taking Juice Plus, I got on to the Canadian Triathlon and Ironman team, endurance sports, so I credited that to Juice Plus. So quickly, I was very opposed to the shakes. And the reason for that is because I spent 5 years of my life in Canada in the Canadian Fitness Federation, and I was taking all those whey proteins. Anyone ever taste them? So I took them because I didn't have another product to take, but just to say shake, and I was like, I got to that point. So when I saw the shakes, I'm like, I'm not taking shakes, right? But I started to read up on it, and the soy, I'm severely allergic to soy. I don't know if anyone here, if I have soy from the market, in 2 minutes, my stomach is bloated. And I say yes because it's organic, and I use them amazingly. I just had one before the talk here. I've never had a problem. So if you have a soy problem, don't be afraid. It's gonna do all great things for you. I used to be a chocolate addict and an ice cream addict. Athletes, that's what we do. Our body is using so much insulin through training that we crave a lot. And I could not believe in day 2 on the shakes, I was looking at chocolate-covered almonds and I didn't want them. Week 5 on the product, my face completely cleared up. I could not believe. I've tried everything, proactive, antibiotics, creams, you name it. Diets, everything I tried, nothing worked for my face. Week 5 on the product, my face cleared up, I dropped everything. I went to the garbage, throw all my supplements, I was a supplement queen, vitamin queen. And instantly my brain went, I know this person, I know this person, I know this person, I know this person. If you look around, everybody struggles from something. There is not one person. So I called them up and I said, I'm not sure this is for you, but this is what I'm taking. Check it out. This is what I experienced. So I shared my experience. That's all I did. I was not a marketing person or a numbers person. I did not know anything about the business. I put my clients on the program, on the Juice Plus capsules and the shakes, because as a trainer, people come to you for more energy, for healthier lifestyle, to lose some extra pounds, right? That's what we do. That's what I was